welcome to another episode of Partners in Progress. I'm Joe,
I'm Liz.
and we are a married couple. We're also both entrepreneurs. It wasn't crazy enough for us to marry each other. We also decided that we both had to be entrepreneurs, or we're both coaches in different areas. So I am a leadership and a results coach. I specifically work with leaders in real estate. Now, I can work with anyone in real estate, but that's really where I like to focus my attention is leaders in real estate because what happens a lot of times is when you start out, and this is with any industry, but I see this especially in real estate. When you're starting out, there's a lot of leadership, and there's a lot of you've got all of these programs available to you. You've got all this training. You've got all these classes, and you've got all of these coaches and leaders and team leaders and brokers that are pouring into you, right? And as you start to move up and you start to improve yourself, as you start to get some momentum in your own business, and I found that when you start to climb up the leadership ladder, there comes a point where you are pouring into everyone around you, and a lot of the pouring in from up top starts to dry up. And so that's where I provide support, and I provide that accountability, but also the support. And I love pouring into leaders at the top because they you guys are amazing people, and you do so much for the people around you, and it's only fair that someone else is pouring into you as well. So that's kind of what I specialize in. Liz is in a very different type of coaching. You want to tell them about that?
Yeah, so I help moms that are dealing with, or not dealing with, but moms that are going through the journey of their child having leukemia and trying to just like find themselves again after, the shock of diagnosis and frontline treatments. And so I help them find their way back to themselves.
It's important that
Because again, pouring into, they need someone pouring into them because they're pouring everything
yeah,
out into the people around them, their child that's sick. And honestly, you forget to care for yourself and pour into yourself.
I can't think of anyone that's more giving than moms, especially in a situation where they're going through that kind of trauma.
Yeah.
And that's really, at that point, that's really all you know, is to just give everything you've got. But
But
we
then
we
it takes its toll, and it at some point there's not anything left to give.
it's like, I mean, it's like that classic example that we both use, you and I both use, and for our clients, is that if you can think of yourself as a cup, and
Hmm.
there's only so much you can pour out of the cup until it's empty, right?
Yeah.
But if you have someone else pouring into you as you're pouring out, then it
Yeah.
continues to fill, and the more you have, the more you have to give. And so that's one of the things that I like to really stress with a lot of my clients is that you want to have your cup filled, and everything that pours out to the people around you is overflow. Instead
Yeah.
of pouring your
It's
cup
like a
out till it's empty, you want to
yeah.
get so much. You want to surround yourself with the people that are important, that will pour into you on such a deep level that you overflow, and
Yeah.
then you help everyone around you.
I think for moms going through this, like the traumatic experience, it feels like there's holes in the bottom of that cup
Yeah,
and it can't be filled. That's what it feels like
yeah,
if you
I can
continue
see that.
to fill other people's cups. Like, you got to be the good mom. You have to work. Some moms,
Sure.
and you got to work to make ends meet. You have to take care of your child who's sick. You also have to be a wife. you
Maybe you have
know,
other kids. Did you
yeah,
say that already?
yeah. You have other kids.
Yeah.
There's can be some guilt in that because you're paying so much attention to the one child. So it
Yeah.
feels like a lot, and you're just, even when you pour a little bit into yourself, feels like there's holes at the bottom and it's just
Mm.
running out. And so at the end of the day, you just feel like there's nothing left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what would you say are some ways that you can start to plug those holes in the cups?
Hmm. Habits.
Would you say that's
Yeah,
actually was the
that's
that's
the
actually what we were planning on talking
nice little
about
segue
today?
there.
That's actually what we were planning on talking about today anyway, right? Is
Yeah.
habits.
Yeah,
And
habits, which
that's
help a
that's a
lot.
great segue. That makes total sense, and I love that visual of having. I'll be honest. I thought of dumping your cup over, but yeah, you're so right. Sometimes it feels like there's holes in the bucket,
Hmm.
and no matter how much you fill and fill and fill, I
It
mean, if you
can't
got
fill it
holes in the
enough.
bucket, it's
There
never
is
going to
no
be full,
overflow.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the biggest things to start filling those holes are habits,
Hmm.
because well, like you help you help moms, and what's one of the biggest things that you help moms with is self-care,
Yeah.
right? So what does that look like? What is a habit that they can do that looks like to start plugging those holes?
Well, the habit I started with was Bible study.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you don't have a mom group or other moms to talk to or encourage you, um, or maybe, your spouse doesn't understand,
Mhm.
either way, God does. And
Yeah.
so when I read my Bible and I take the time to study that, that really helps to fill some of the holes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really start to connect back to your creator.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then journaling too, like just write out all your thoughts, feelings. And I mean, you can do it on social media, but I know some moms like to write like how they're feeling that day and put it on social media. That way it'll, because you get the reminders every year.
Mm.
But I feel like when I do that, it doesn't get it out of my brain. When I put it on paper, it gets it out of my brain and I can stop thinking about it for a little bit at
Yeah.
least. I feel like when I put it on social media, it doesn't do that for me.
Well,
It could, because then people are commenting on your stuff and keeping it in your brain.
okay. I was just gonna ask why you think that is, because
Yeah.
it just keeps digging it back up.
Yeah. And then, you know,
So that? How would you say that? I'm really curious about this. How would you say that posting on social media, and I know there's a huge difference, but I want to hear your your take on it. What would you say? You look a little nervous
yeah,
there.
a little nervous. Where are we going with this?
So, what would you say is the difference? What would you say is the difference between posting it on social media and sharing it with your coach?
um, I think it's when you post it on social media, it's going to every person that follows you, right?
Right.
And not all of them are going to relate to what you're going through. They're going to, say the platitudes, I'm sorry, I'm praying for you.
Yeah.
I just, platitudes, right?
Yeah.
But when you're talking to a coach or to someone that's been through what you've been through, they can be like, "Yeah, I totally understand. This sucks."
Yeah.
And they can relate to you.
I like what you. I'm just gonna jump in there real quick. I like what you said there, because you've got the people that are talking about the platitudes, right? Everything works out to the for the good of those who love him, and it's at least you're not going through at least you're further along by this point, right?
Yeah.
But I like what you said, because here's the thing. I feel like we're in this point, and I think that's one of the reasons that coaching is so important. Um, and I think in any situation, I've got a coach,
Hmm.
you know, that because you said, yeah, no, that sucks.
Yeah.
Because we can relate, but we're not going to try and candy coat it, right? Like, yeah, it's a terrible situation you're in.
Hmm.
So then from there, instead of but instead of indulging and
Mhm.
letting and continuing to let your mom, your client, not your mom, but the mom you're
The
working
mom,
with
yeah.
become a victim, where do you move on from there?
Um, I usually, what I do with myself is I think about the good things.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so this sucks right now. It
Yeah.
really does. But what's something positive that's happening? What's something positive that has come out from the diagnosis? You know,
That's hard.
it is
That's hard.
hard. It's for 3 months or 2 months, I don't know, like a month
Yeah.
into his diagnosis when he wasn't in remission yet. I didn't want to think, I couldn't see anything good.
Yeah.
It's usually around the 3 month mark that you start going, okay, I can see something good. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're doing okay. You enjoy the little things like the smiles that they have, or the fact that they're walking again,
Yeah.
or, you know, um, they're laughing at a TV show. And
Right.
you just, it's weird things that you're like, well, I took for granted.
Yeah.
So then you start looking for these little moments that you can be grateful.
Yeah. It's interesting
Mhm.
because it takes, I mean, everyone's different, but a lot of times after a traumatic event, it takes us, you know, usually 1 to 3 months to be, here's what happens is it becomes the new normal.
Exactly. It
And
takes your
so
brain.
it takes that long. And like I said, everyone's different, but it takes some time for our brain to realize, to be able to adjust and go, okay, this is normal now.
Yeah.
And we have to do that. Our brain has to do that. I mean, we can't, we wouldn't be able to handle that level of stress if it was like when our son was first diagnosed.
Mhm.
I I didn't think my body could handle that much stress. I mean, that much. I mean, it was, you were there. It was just so overwhelmingly intense, that level
Yeah.
of stress. It was like, I feel like I'm going to pass out. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's no way that my body can handle and my brain can
Well,
handle
and then
this
you don't
amount.
eat. You don't eat. You don't really
I didn't
sleep.
eat for 6 days
No.
and I didn't notice.
Nope. You don't
That's the
notice.
crazy thing. And I'm not trying to be a victim or anything. All I'm saying is, but then eventually we start to get used to things
Yeah.
because our brain cannot. I mean, if your brain dealt with that level of stress every day for 90 days, it would kill you. Like you
Right.
wouldn't be able to handle it. So that's why we have to adapt, and that's why humans are so amazing at adapting, which can be an amazing thing, but can also be a very destructive thing.
Right. Because so you're adapting for this. So with me, it was a year. I just adapted. I just, okay. I forgot to start looking for because I got so used to everything.
Yeah,
I forgot to start looking for the great things that are happening, to be grateful for the little things. I would
yeah,
start getting annoyed instead
yeah,
of little things because my cup was empty.
yeah.
I was no longer in this traumatic, like, it wasn't new traumatic. It was just
There was no
it
novelty
was like,
anymore.
okay, we've been to the ER 10 times this week. Like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, this is ridiculous, you
So
know?
then
So then it
so
got
then that starts
annoyed.
to wear on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're not dumping that into a book, like a journal,
Yeah.
it's going to dump into your family. And so
Yeah.
you're going to start getting angry at little little things. You'll start getting upset with your husband for no reason. Well, I mean, there's a reason in your own brain, but
So when you made the shift, you're talking
mhm,
about the shift. When you made a shift from, instead of thinking about all the negative things, to thinking about some of the positive things, did you start journaling the positive things as well?
yes,
And how
I
did
was
that have an effect?
I was in a lot better mood most
Yeah.
for at least a couple hours a day. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something that for me, I let it go on too long, and that's what I don't
Yeah.
want moms to do. I don't want
Yeah.
them to let it go on too long to where it takes a long time to get back,
Mm.
and you're never going to be who you were,
No.
which is hard to. I don't know, stomach,
That
I
was one
think.
of the things that was hard for both of us to deal with is that
Yeah.
we're um we're never gonna it's not gonna be the same as it
We're
was.
not going to
It's
be the
never gonna
same.
be the same as it was before. There is no
No,
going back.
there isn't. No.
Which, if you think of it from like if you think of it in just regular life terms, if you think of it as this continuum, there is no going back to our old life anyway, right? We're
Right.
always continuously growing in some way,
But I think it's like
right?
the whole fear of relapse that's
Yeah,
always on a parent's mind when their child has gone through
yeah,
cancer and of any kind.
right.
It's always that fear of relapse.
Yeah, but
But
one of the things that you do is you help them really get a perspective on what that even means, right? And because if they're going to sit there and fixate on relapse and that's all they think about, then you can't live,
no, you can't enjoy the fact that you know what your son is in or daughter is doing a lot better,
right?
and you can't think about relapse because then yeah, you would just go back to that first day.
And do everything you possibly can for your health and your mental health and your physical health to
Right.
get
Well, and
to
especially your
reduce
child's
that.
your
But
child's mental health
yeah,
because when your mental health is good, their mental health is going to be
yeah, everything you do affects the people around you,
good. And they're the ones that need to be more positive than anything,
and it
right?
all comes down to a choice, right?
Yeah.
But it all so you mentioned a couple of habits. So you
Mm-hmm.
said the habit
Bible study.
of Bible study, the habit of journaling.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's one of the habits that I recommend to all my clients too is start that habit of journaling because um, I don't think I've worked with a single client yet that when I ask them if they journal regularly, they do.
Yeah.
And that's I'm not slamming anyone. That's pretty average. Most people don't journal.
I wish I would have started journaling earlier on in the
I do too.
journey because then we could have, gone back and read exactly how we were feeling. But
Yeah,
I think we were hiding from them, our
yeah.
feelings.
It's interesting though because when you journal, I think that's a really solid habit that no matter what situation you are in life, I think everyone should keep a journal regularly. I've got um, I've got journals from the last year and a half. Got something like 400, more than that, 500 days worth of journal pages written out. And I'm not bragging. But what I'm saying is it's really neat to be able. Sometimes I'll go back and I'll read a past journal, and it shows different things. It shows where you were at. It shows where your mind was at
Mm-hmm.
in that time. It shows what you were really focusing on, and it shows your progression. It shows how you've grown since then.
Yeah.
And what's what's really amazing is when you and I talk about this all the time when I talk about journaling because I think journaling is if if you don't take if the only thing people take from this episode is to start keeping a journal, that would be okay with me because it's so powerful and it starts to compound. It compounds your experience and your knowledge and your thoughts because what happens is our brains are not they're not designed to store information. They're designed to process information. And so when
Yeah.
you write it down, there's a couple of things that happens. First of all, you were talking about you write it down and it's gone. Like
Yeah.
you're
It's a brain dump.
not necessarily gone, but I mean your brain is saying, I wrote it down. I don't need to hold it anymore.
Yeah, you don't need to like keep it in the
So it gives
front
you
of your
that
mind.
like freedom and release, right?
Mm-hmm.
Second thing is it tells your brain whatever you wrote down is important because that right there is one of them that right there is one of probably the biggest reasons that I have exercises that I do with my clients, like specific exercises where they write things down because you are telling your brain this is important
Mm-hmm.
because um, not only you're telling it it's important, but you're also clarifying what you're actually trying to think, right?
Yeah.
So if you have to pull it from here and put it here, then you have to actually decide what is it really that I am thinking. Because there's all of this like swirling around in there, but you have
Yeah.
when you clarify it into something that you can actually communicate to another person, there's power in that. And then you can start to become more articulate in your thoughts. But habits are are vital, are critical to start plugging those holes in the
Mm-hmm.
bucket. Because and habits really they create the foundation for everything that we do, who we are. You know, um, when I started my habit of my morning routine and my workout routine, a long time ago, it 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 started to change who I. It wasn't just a habit. At some point, something shifted, and
Yeah.
it became who I was. It started to feed into my identity,
Right.
and
Like I am someone who gets up early and
right,
works out.
and those habits start to change you, and it will happen that way no matter what. That's how habits work. So you're if you've got the habit of being a complainer all the time, then that will start to become your identity. It will start to
Yeah.
affect who you are. If you're in the habit of building people up, that becomes, no matter what your habit is, it starts to work into your identity. It starts to become who you are. It's
Right.
like um, James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, he talks about how atomic, meaning these little tiny building blocks, right? It's these tiny little things, because people, they tend to think that everything's got to happen in these giant leaps, but it's really in those small habits that we keep every single day.
Yeah.
It's those little shifts
Like
that make a huge
I'm gonna
differences.
work out every day. And it's
Right?
like, no, you're gonna work out today. Just think about that.
That's it.
I'm gonna work out today. And then you're good. Don't
Right.
think about tomorrow. And then when you wake up, I'm gonna work out today.
And you know what?
And then you do it.
It doesn't matter if it's Monday, if it's Wednesday or Thursday, work out today.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't work out yesterday, do it today.
Yeah. Why not?
Or
I think that's
or if
been
you're
the
gonna do
hardest
the
one for
journaling or
me.
self care, or if you're gonna
Yeah.
do cold calls or whatever. But what was the hardest one?
Working out. I
Oh,
think it's been the hardest. I don't know why.
yeah.
It's just like I don't want to move my body because when you move your body, you change your physiology, right?
Uh huh.
So I'm just like, at sometimes, like you were saying, when you keep on doing even negative things, you start becoming that.
Yeah.
So if you decide I'm going to be depressed today, the next day I'm going to be depressed today.
And how difficult is it to work out and stay depressed? It's
Very, it's very
pretty near
difficult.
impossible, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I'm like, well, I don't
what?
want to be happy today. Well, why
So
not?
yeah.
I don't
So
know.
it's no wonder that most people. I'm not slamming anyone. Want to be really clear about that. But it makes sense that most people who are really depressed are overweight.
Yeah,
You're not.
anymore.
Well, I was pretty overweight too. But what I'm saying is you get stuck in that pattern, right? We're talking about
Yeah.
patterns and habits. You get stuck in this
Well, that
pattern
could be
of
like,
wanting to be depressed, and I don't want to work out because I know working out is going to change my state. I know it's going to make me feel better.
well, that can also be a habit, right? So you feel depressed
Yeah.
and then you eat.
Yeah.
And then eating makes you feel depressed. So then what are you going to do? You're
Yeah.
going to eat.
You're gonna eat. Yeah.
So then you can do the
This
same
is
thing on
another
the,
crazy eight,
yeah,
right?
you can do another thing on the flip side where it's like you're going to work out and it makes you happy.
Right.
So then you want to do something else that makes you happy. So then you find something else that makes you happy. Because I
Right.
mean, you're not going to work out again, probably not. I mean, maybe. I mean, if you want to, go ahead.
Right.
But so you're going to work out, you're going to be happy, and then you're going to be like, you know what? I'm going to go for a walk outside because that makes me happy. So you go outside and get some sun.
Every single time I do my workout, it makes me feel, it's crazy because it creates momentum. That's why I like doing it super early in the morning Everyone thinks I'm crazy doing my workout at 4:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
But it creates this momentum because when one of the first things I do is really get moving, is it creates this sense of wanting to
Do
keep
more.
moving. I
Yeah.
want to do
Keep
more. I
going.
started out really strong. Now I want to do this, and now I want to do this.
Yeah.
And
And
my
that
most productive days are always the ones that I work out where I work out really hard in the morning.
and that can be a habit.
And it's a habit.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have good habits and bad habits?
yeah.
So what do we do if we're in a bad habit cycle and we want to be in a good habit cycle?
Do you want to break that down? So if you take a mixture of things that I teach, but one of the things that I use a lot is the habit loop. And this
Mm-hmm.
was something that was I think this was actually coined by Charles Duhigg in his book Power of Habit. But then James Clear kind of took it and I don't know if he stole it, but he kind of altered it slightly. But it's this they call it the habit loop. And so the first one is the cue. The first part of a habit is a cue. Okay, so let's break this down into how it actually works, and it's in psychology, right? So the first one is the trigger, the cue, the thing that makes you want to start the habit, right?
Okay.
So he also breaks it down into the four laws of behavior change. The first one, like I said, is the cue, which is the which ties into the first law, which is make it obvious.
Okay.
So if you want to create a new good habit, make the cue obvious. Okay, so go ahead.
So the cue is like, oh, my pants are too tight, so I need to
Sure,
go work out.
it could be a trigger. It's a trigger.
Yeah.
So one of the cues I did for working out was I set myself up a workout area. I made a specific area, and this plays into the another part as well. But I made this specific area where my workout equipment is right there, and so it's there in my face every time I walk by it. There's the workout equipment, so it's obvious that it's something that needs to happen, right? It's obvious that that um, that habit needs to keep replicating itself. Does that make
Right.
sense? So
Mm-hmm.
make it obvious. Another way you can do this for what was the example that you used?
Losing weight, like which? I'm sorry.
So a way that you can do this in like health
Mm-hmm.
is instead of having cookies and muffins and all these things available, have fruit available. Have it
Right.
obvious. It's right there. So instead of grabbing a cookie, you grab an orange or you grab an
Right.
apple, right? So you're making it obvious.
And make it easy, obvious and easy, like a banana or whatever.
Right. So the second one would be to make it attractive. So that's the you've got the cue and then you've got the craving, which would be
Like buy a
making it
really nice
attractive.
dress that's in a size that you can't fit yet.
Sure. Yeah, for something like that, that's something that I want to be able to fit in that. It's a
Yeah.
craving, right? I want to be able to fit into that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the craving was to I want to be able to chase my 2-year-old around the house without feeling like an old man. That was a craving for me. I really
Sure.
wanted to be able to do that because I felt like I was so disconnected from my 2-year-old because I couldn't play with him. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a great example as well. Having this really nice dress that you want to fit into, or maybe you start to associate a more intense feeling of pleasure with eating an orange instead of eating a cookie. Or maybe you associate um, a feeling of accomplishment for taking care of yourself so that you know how to take care of your family and your kids. Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
feeling a sense of accomplishment when you make those cold calls or do those door knocks or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
So that's your second law is um, is make it attractive. That's the craving. The third one is to make it easy,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be the response.
Oops, I went too fast.
That's okay.
Sorry.
So make it easy. Make it easy to do. And so a lot of these play in together. And if you can get multiple laws of change in one situation, then it's a very high likelihood that the habit will catch on. That's why something as simple as putting a bowl of apples like in the middle of the kitchen or in the middle of the table is such a good way to start a new positive habit. Okay, that's why cookie jars are why it's so easy to have a cookie habit, because you have the cookie jar, right? It's there, right?
Right.
It's obvious, it's attractive because it's right
It's
there,
pretty.
and it's easy, and you can
Mm-hmm.
just grab a cookie, right? So swap that out for something that's easier, or for something that's healthier, right? Swap it
Right.
out for oranges or apples. It's easy. All you have to do is just grab it. It's right there. Make it easy. Make it obvious. So make it easy. I For me, and this is different for everyone. For me, I have my workout equipment at home because, to me, going to the gym every single day is a pain, and I don't know if I would do it. For me, I want to have the equipment there because it's easy,
Mm-hmm.
it's accessible. Now, I know not everyone's like that. A lot of times, people will have to change their environment in order to get that motivation. That's totally cool. It's different for everyone. I'm not slamming anyone that can't do that. That's cool. But for me, just for me personally, I want the equipment right there. I
Right.
want to be able to work out
When you want to.
when I want to work out and not have to drive to the gym. And so for me, that's a way to make the habit easy.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um, and then the fourth one would be to make it, the fourth one would be the reward, or to make it satisfying. Does that make sense?
Like you can run around the house with our 3-year-old and not feel tired,
Right,
and I can fit into that dress.
right.
Yeah.
Or you got the prospective client because you did put that work in, right?
Yeah.
Or or
You
maybe
are a
you're
better caregiver to your child.
feeling more connected with your kids, you feeling
Mm-hmm.
more alive, you are healthier, right?
Yeah.
Because you are starting to use those habits to plug the holes in your bucket.
Right.
So it would be cue, that would be make it obvious, right? Then um, there's craving, that would be make it attractive. Then there is response, that would be make it easy. And then there is reward, make it satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those are the four things that you follow. That's the loop, right? And so what happens? Here's what happens. Here's why they call it a loop. So I just like the Apple example because it's super easy. I think that might have been the one he used in the book. Um, but you have an apple, instead of having cookies on the countertop, you got apples, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you walk into the kitchen, it's obvious. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's attractive because
Apples are
apples look
beautiful.
nice, and
Yeah.
oh man, that's a great snack to have. It's easy, super easy,
Just grab it
accessible,
and bite
and
it.
you've got a reward. You've got the feeling of eating and feeling full,
And it's sweet.
and it's sweet, and it's good for you. And so that's another reinforcement, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you know that it's good for you.
Yeah.
So you have the cue, the yeah, you have the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your brain goes, "Wow, that was great. I like that," and it re-cues it,
Gotcha.
and it goes in this loop. And eventually, it becomes so strong that it becomes a habit,
Yeah. That
and
makes
it's
sense.
automatic. I like to think of habits as like automation for your brain. The
The
more
more
you
you
do
do it,
something
the
over and
easier it
over,
is.
easier it gets,
Makes
right?
sense.
So, how do you take a a bad or destructive habit? Because I like to think of them as constructive and destructive. If you think of them as, I think we talked about this last week, but if you think of them as bad or good, your brain doesn't really know what to do with that. It wants useful and not useful, because a
Mm-hmm.
habit is
Was this a useful habit or a not useful habit?
Right. And our
Right.
brain is always trying to solve problems. So a habit is literally just a formula to solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And so if you think of it as constructive versus destructive, I think it's more useful and it's easier for you to get the habit going. So if you think of it a a negative habit or a destructive habit, it's actually it's actually kind of stupidly simple. You just reverse or invert the loop. That's all you do. So the cue, instead of making it,
Cookies.
huh?
Instead of making the cue cookies,
Well, the
make
cue
it
would be,
apples.
instead of making it obvious, you make it invisible.
Take the
So
cookies
you
away.
take it away.
Got it.
You get rid of all the sugar in the house, and so it's not as easy to access, right? It's not
Yeah. You
obvious,
actually have
right?
to go to the store to get a
Right.
cookie if you want
So
one.
instead of making it obvious, you make it invisible. The
Okay.
second would be the craving. So instead of making it attractive, you make it unattractive.
Put cockroaches on the cookies.
Well,
Just
in
kidding.
a
I don't know.
way, you can actually use neuroassociative conditioning in this way. So if you think of you actually pretty much hit it right on the head. If you can imagine, okay, if I eat this cookie and it's about to go in my mouth and I can, like, think of it right now. If you take that cookie, right? Come on, think about it.
Okay.
Really, really imagine it and
I don't
take
like
that cookie.
cookies.
Well, let's say, well, what do you like that's still not good for you?
I like dark chocolate, and that's good for you. So.
All right, well, let's say a cookie.
Okay, cookie. I'm
And you put that
imagining a
cookie in your
cookie.
mouth, right?
Mm.
And you're tasting it, and then all of a sudden you can feel worms start to kind of squirm around in the
Oh,
cookie.
yuck.
Oh man! And now they're starting to ooze, and it's getting all over your hand, and you can see the worm guts everywhere. Okay, so is it attractive now?
No.
How about this? So for some people, they'll just think that that's silly, right? Whatever. Like, you really expect me to just think of worms coming out of the cookies? You could also think of it this way. Think of the fat globules that are going to come from eating that cookie. When you get that cookie in your body, and think of how just gross it's going to
Tired
make you
and
feel, right?
yeah.
So that's unattractive, right? The third one would be the response, or how to make it easy. You make it difficult. That would be another way where you could get all the sugar out of the house. And then if it's like, man, I really want a cookie, I gotta go all the way to the store, or
Or
maybe,
I have to make it
or
myself.
maybe shop at healthier stores so that you're not you're not tempted to get that stuff. Does that make sense? So you make it difficult on yourself.
Yeah.
And then the fourth thing is instead of making it satisfying, you make it unsatisfying. So the attractive and unsatisfying are kind of the same thing, or kind of work into each other, because you want to think of it as, instead of getting a reward from this, you're
You're
actually
gonna
getting
get
kind of like
pain.
a penalty. You're getting pain from it. So you could think of the cookie as making you feel really sick and sluggish
Yeah, I'm tired.
and tired. So that's how you do it. So those are the four stimulus. That's how the habit loop works.
Makes sense.
And so start thinking about these things one of the easiest ways to start to break a habit is just don't put yourself in the situation where you're gonna have that trigger. You're gonna have that cue. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So so if it's cookies, get that stuff out of the house. If it's procrastination, start putting cues in place to where you can to where it's easy to where it's obvious that you're supposed to be doing this thing, right? And then from there, associate that with the outcome you're going to get from that, right? And then it starts to create this loop. Duhigg just says it's cue, routine, reward. He doesn't have the two in the middle. So it just depends on how you think of it. But
Yeah.
it's go ahead.
I'm just agreeing.
Yeah, but it's this circle. And so the more you feed into the habit, the stronger it's going to get. The one thing I will say though is you can't you can't truly just remove a destructive habit. You can, but what's going to happen is it's going to create a void, and then something's just going to fill it right
So
away
you have to just
because nature
replace
hates a
the
void.
habit.
So you want to replace the destructive habit with a constructive habit.
That's why you're talking about the apples.
That's what I'm
instead of
talking about, the apples. So you
Yeah.
just replace the cookies with the apples, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just replace the TV
With a book.
with a book. You replace the
Reading your phone in the morning with reading your Bible.
exactly. So you got to make it easy.
Yeah.
That's a great way to think of it too. Like one of the ways that I make it easy on myself for my morning routine and my workout is I set up everything the night before so that I'm not running around looking for my shoes and a towel and all this stuff. It's already right where I know it's going to be. I'm ready to do my morning routine and it gets done, and that's how I perpetuate the habit because it's easy.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is the more you do it, now it's become a habit to prep for the next morning, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes this habit because I know that as I'm getting ready for the night, I'm subconsciously thinking about that whole loop because I'm thinking, well, if I don't get my towel ready for my shower, and if I don't get my shoes in the right place, and if I don't know, it's dark when I get up, it's going to be a pain. I'm not going to have to be poking around for my shoes, and then I'm going to wake up the kids and see. So
then your workout's ruined. Yeah.
I'm just thinking it's this cycle. So that's basically how habits work. But it is critical to start implementing habits and be intentional about your habits. That's 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 the key. Instead of just letting life happen to you, I truly believe that intention is the foundation for success. It's the foundation for happiness. It's the success or it's the foundation for fulfillment, personal development. I mean everything. Because when you are intentionally forming your own life instead of just letting the habits sweep you away, you're going to have habits one way or the other.
Right.
So why not be
positive?
Why not be intentional? Why not choose the habits that you want to form your life? And so and this is one of the habits that we've built, right?
Doing the webinar.
Sitting down and doing the podcast every week.
Oh my brain.
The webinar.
It's 10 o'clock. We're tired.
Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. And if you have any subjects that you would like us to cover, if you have questions for us, we would love to hear from you in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. And I could talk about habits, for hours and hours.
We'll talk about more next week too.
Probably they'll probably come up eventually. But anyway, thanks, and we'll see you next time.